Hello, everybody! This show has been created to inspire you to take action.
All about celebrating and reframing what success looks like.
To be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
And we have incredible speakers for you tonight. Hello, and welcome to the Future Females Show. I am your host, Lauren Dallas. I'm CEO of Future Females, and this show is all about celebrating and reframing what success looks like through interviews with change makers, executives, and women who are really leading the path in their own fields. So I'm particularly excited to be joined for this interview by Rolene Strauss. Rolene is so many things. She is a doctor, a model, a beauty pageant winner and holder of Miss South Africa, and then Miss World same year in 2014. So Rolene, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Lauren. It's lovely to be spending some time with you and all of the viewers and listeners out there.
I'm particularly excited because something that our community often struggles with, and myself included, is the topic of confidence. And I guess pushing through those self-doubts that plague all of us as we're working towards massive goals that we haven't achieved before. And knowing your journey, I'm very excited to have you on here to share some of your, stories, but also really practical strategies that people can take away. Before we get into those, I'm sure I did you no justice with my intro. So if you want to just share a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump in.
Well, one thing that I'm obviously most known for is the fact that I was Miss South Africa and Miss World. But over the past couple of years, I've really come to learn that I am an entrepreneur at heart. And I love creating online courses and products and basically creating things that help women specifically to overcome challenges that I've also overcome. Overcame. So that's basically, entrepreneur at heart, but also a mom and a wife with 2 boys. And till date, that must be my favorite title is the one of motherhood, which I'm also very, very fortunate and grateful for.
So Rolene, even one of the amazing roles that you hold and live can seem probably impossible to a number of women out there, whether it's world or whether it is started a business or a family. What is it that has sparked you to set these goals, and have you always felt confident that you could achieve them, or has that been a journey for you?
I was very fortunate to grow up in a family where my parents always taught my brother and I that in life you're going to get opportunities and it's your responsibility to grab those opportunities, whether you feel like it might work or not, but just, take them on and make the best of them. And I must admit that most of the times I haven't necessarily felt as confident as I should have. And I can single out a few critical moments in my life where things started to change for me, where I, as an 8-year-old girl, got really teased for having curly hair. And it's almost like I put on certain lenses and started looking at the world in a different way. And the little girl who believed she could do anything kind of started fading away as she realized that life is not as it seems. Specifically focusing on public speaking, where at the age of 19, I had the opportunity to enter Miss South Africa for the very first time. And I was in the top 5 and couldn't answer the question on stage in front of thousands of people. And once again, that critical moment that led me to believe that I can never speak in front of people, or I'm not good at public speaking. So it took quite some work for me to go back and restory these things. In life, we can't necessarily change what happened to us, but we can restory them. And I know that a lot of people think, oh my goodness, Rolene, being Miss South Africa, Miss World, how on earth did you ever struggle with confidence? But it's been such a big part of my journey that I had to overcome. And I realized that there are so many women struggling with that. And that's why it's one of my passions, to help women rediscover their confidence and their true worth.
Amazing. Rolene, I think as you were speaking, my childhood memory came up, and probably everyone tuned in, it's doing the same for them. Mine was a moment where I was on stage in a wetsuit singing the Australian national anthem, and not being from Australia, I forgot the words. And I just remember feeling so humiliated. How do you re-story? What is your advice for everyone who's kind of reliving that moment themselves right now?
Yeah. For me, going back to the basics and finding out, I know we all speak of self-awareness, knowing who you truly are, what your core identity is, but I like to call it your soul print. So I believe like each and every one of us have a unique fingerprint. We have a unique soul print. We're born with a set of God-given talents, with potential, with dreams and goals. And as soon as we go back to that soul print of ours, the benefits of reaching our full potential outweighs the risk of possible failure in the future as well. And if you look at it like that, you end up using these circumstances as learning experiences and stories to tell when you kind of send the lift back down to people who are yet to overcome these similar challenges.
And I love this concept of the soul print, and I guess leaning into your own unique zone of genius rather than trying to compete with someone else's. But I imagine it's quite a discovery journey to really figure out what's the most authentic for you. So how do you map your soul print?
So your soul print consists out of various different things. And what I usually start with is to get clarity on your personal set of values and what you deem important. And I use an exercise where I focus on our feelings and our emotions as a window to our values. So where we go and ask yourself, for instance, what makes me really happy? And list them down. What makes me really sad? And list them down. And then asking yourself, if I experience a positive emotion, it's usually because a core value of mine is supported. And if I experience a negative emotion, it's because a core value of mine is not supported. So using your emotions as clues. So if you get really upset in traffic and ask yourself, but why do I get so upset? Maybe it's because I feel disrespected with someone cutting in front of me, or I feel like it's important to respect someone else's time and I might be late. So start with using your emotions as a clue to what's really important for you. And then simply messaging a few people, asking them, what do you think I'm really good at? What do you think are my superpowers? And what have I been blessed with? Because as women, we often try to turn our cheeks or our eyes away from what we're really good at and focusing on our weaknesses and trying to improve them. So actually asking some of your friends, your family members, your colleagues, what they think you're good at, and slowly but surely starting to kind of get the picture of who you really are. And a lot of the times it's also creating who you want to be as part of that soul print, but using the core and the foundation as it is and then building on that.
I love this concept. Rolene, I want to bring it back to you if you're okay with this. What is something you discovered is part of your soul print that has really led you to achieving all of the feats that you have?
So when I tried to figure out, I think it was probably the past 4 years when I started with my master's in philosophy and leadership coaching, that I actually started this process. And I had such a light bulb moment when I realized, oh my goodness, there's actually 2 Rolenes. And I was so confused, and I actually ended up phoning my mom. I'm like, Mom, what was I as a little girl? Because on the one hand, I have this very achiever Rolene inside of me. I don't want to become Miss South Africa. I want to become Miss World. I don't just want to finish my studies. I want to finish them cum laude. So I have this very achiever side of me. And then on the other side, there's the gentle, I'm so empathetic. I kind of feel with people. I want to help people. I want to serve people. So I had these two elements of me. And as I've done some coaching with amazing women, I've realized that they often struggle with the same thing. You're not exactly sure who you are anymore. And then when you realize, but these 2 parts of you are still you, and where do you want to use them and how are you going to use them to reach your full potential? So that was just one of the aha moments that I had during the process.
That's so interesting because as you're speaking through that, firstly, I'm personally resonating a lot, but secondly, it's making me think about kind of the masculine and feminine energy that lives inside all of us. And I think different women to different degrees typically suppress one side or the other. Do you ever think of it like that or not really?
Well, it can be seen as that. A lot of people perceive it as that. And if you want to use that in my example, it actually makes sense, the whole achiever versus the more gentle side. But I think it's all about finding not necessarily the balance, but the harmony between the different parts of you and realizing how they actually complement one another. Um, in the sense that if I'm really, really excited and driven to reach a certain goal, it's usually because I want to serve people by doing that. So it really plays together very well.
So I want to bring it back to the topic of confidence, which I guess this gets nicely into because it starts with self-inquiry, knowing who you are and then being confident to show that to the world. But something you speak about in your Mind Quest, which is firstly very exciting, congratulations. But you start with talking about what confidence is and what it's not, and I guess debunking this myth that you're either born with confidence or you're not. I would love if you could expand on that a little.
So confidence is always or mostly seen as a very fluffy topic. And also people believe that they're either born with it or not. They're either introverts or extroverts. But I am of the opinion, and I've done a lot of research on it, that confidence is a skill. And it's a skill that we can develop, and it's a very special skill in the sense that it magnifies our already existing skills, talents, and potential. So, as women, we often feel like being confident is being selfish, but the most selfish thing you can do is hiding your skills and your talents because you don't have the confidence to shine them and to make a difference in the people's lives around you. So for me, confidence is such a precious, precious skill that we can develop and that will enable us to live our soul prints and to use our soul prints to really make a difference in whatever way each of us can individually.
Amazing. I love that lens on it. And so if it's a skill, and I know you do talk about this often, the practices, the mindset shifts that women can use to embody that self-confidence, would you mind sharing one, perhaps one that you're currently using?
Yes. So I focus on 4 elements when it comes to developing your self-confidence. So there are 4 distinct ways of doing that. A very simple and easy way is by using mastery experiences. So mastery experiences is when, and I think all of us can testify that when we reach a certain goal that's aligned with our soul prints and aligned with our values, it gives us confidence. Doesn't matter how big or small that goal is. And this is where goal setting is extremely important, because when you don't reach that goal, it kind of empties your self-confidence buckets on the other side. So making sure that you do set yourself goals, that you set them realistically, but that they build up to a big, ambitious goal. It's almost like imagining yourself standing in front of a big building, and the one person is trying to jump up to the second floor of the building from the ground, and they never really get there, where someone else is a bit better at goal setting and they know that they're working for that big ambitious goal, but they're making sure that they have different levels and steps on the way to that goal. And every time you reach a goal that's aligned with who you really are, you build your confidence in that way, and that makes it so much easier to reach the next one. So that's just one of the 4 ways.
I feel like you're speaking my language when it comes to this goal setting, Rolene. I'm all about the big, hairy, audacious goals, you know, emotionally compelling, setting them with that gulp factor and you don't know how to reach them. But you're right, like when you miss it, your self-confidence definitely takes a knock, and that can be particularly challenging when you're leading, say, a team that's also looking to you to bring the energy. So how do you steer women or men to set goals effectively?
I think the number one thing when it comes to goal setting is the fact that it should be based on a very valuable and worthy motivation. So I had a coaching client who came to me And she was a mother of two. She had two boys, and she just felt like she couldn't really find herself after giving birth and after becoming a mom of two boys. And I told her, okay, what do you think we should focus on? What will enable you to find yourself again? And she said, no, she wants to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, why do you want to lose weight? And she said, well, because then I will look good in the mirror. I said, okay, why do you want to look good in the mirror? And then she answered, if I look good in the mirror, I will have a lot of energy. And I said, okay, we're getting somewhere. Why do you want to have a lot of energy? And then she mentioned that when she has a lot of energy, she'll be able to have quality time and spend quality time with her two boys for as long as she can. So the motivation of merely looking good or losing weight was not enough for her to reach her goals. But when she got to that bedrock motivation of spending quality time with her children, it was just so much easier for her to reach that goal. So I think the one thing before you even start working on your goal is just delving a bit deeper and asking yourself, but why? Why do I want to achieve that? Why is it so important? Because otherwise you start climbing this ladder, and then when you're halfway up the top, you realize, oh my goodness, it's lying against the wrong building. So just make sure that your motivation is sound and in line with your soul print before you start working towards this goal.
I am obsessed with this concept, and you spoke about it before, around designing your kind of ideal feelings as opposed to just setting, and particularly for achievers like us, it's so easy to just pick a number or see someone else achieving this and want to be one step higher. But I love that concept of like, how do you really want to feel in that future life after you've achieved it? I know there's been so many times in my life that I've achieved a goal and it's frankly felt a little unfulfilling. And I'm like, okay, what's the next goal? Maybe that will get me there. And you end up on this hamster wheel of your own design, but kind of getting further and further away from where you're truly happy. So I think this is so important to share. On the topic of wheels, so there's probably people tuned in looking at you and going, yes, but she's so far ahead. She's already achieved so much, which is obviously incredible, but perhaps they're at the start of their self-confidence journey. So I believe you have a concept called the self-confidence wheel that helps people figure out, where do I start? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So when you decide actively to find your soul print, to use that soul print, build your confidence in order to reach your full potential, for me, being an achiever, it was very important to be able to track my process, to know where I'm starting, know where I'm going, and then trying to get there step by step. So I use something called the self-confidence wheel, where it's basically a wheel almost looking like a pizza with 8 different areas and focusing on 8 different areas of your life. So these include your body, your physical health, your mind and your emotions, from your business to your career, your friendships, your 8 different areas of your life, and basically drawing a wheel for yourself and rating yourself at this moment. Where do you think you are on a scale of 1 to 10 on this wheel, and just rating each and every life area. And once you've rated it, you'll realize that there are certain areas that are much lower than the others, and then trying to focus on that one area that you will feel will have the biggest impact if you improve it, but with the least effort, if that makes sense. What is the biggest impact with the least effort from my side, just to get this going and to get that little bit of confidence to give you that motivation to go ahead, and then focusing on that and deciding in 5 or 10 or 15 weeks from now, this is where I want to be. I'm now at a 3 out of 10. I want to be at a 7 out of 10. What does that 7 look like? And how can I get there step by step and systematically?
What I think is so powerful about this is it also helps you prioritize, if we bring it back to the topic of goal setting. And if I think about New Year's resolutions, right? So often we'll set one for every single section of that wheel, and ultimately there's trade-offs. We have limited time, energy, capacity. So what I like about the wheel is you're suggesting just pick one or maybe 2. For me, my focuses for this year is business and then also exercise. Last year it was still business, but it definitely wasn't exercise. So it's okay as well to not improve in every area at the same time. Which I love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I always try to look at it as imagine we're all gardeners and we have the beautiful garden in front of us that we have to take care of every single day. But the key is we only have 24 drops of water to water this garden. And in this garden, we have all different plants. We have delicate flowers like orchids and roses. And then we also have more tough flowers, if I can call it that, like proteas and succulents. Which ones are you going to water first? And if you make sure that you prioritize correctly and water the ones that are needed now to make the biggest impact, it will just make life so much more simpler than we tend to make it in our minds.
Absolutely. And so, Rolene, for you, what are you focused on in terms of your personal or professional goals this year?
So my husband and I have a yearly planning session as a couple. And when we plan, we make sure that we are very clear on our individual goals and dreams, but also clear on our goals and dreams together as a couple. So we always laugh about it because we have a family and we have 2 boys. It's almost like we have to play tag team. It's like, okay, this is your 6 months or these are your 3 months. Make the best of it. I'm here to support you and vice versa. So my husband, Daniel, has a lot of amazing projects and things that he is busy with, launching a new book, a television show, and things like that. So the first 3 to 6 months of this year, I'm kind of the support structure, really focusing on the family and then supporting him. And the next 6 months, I have a few interesting things that I want to focus on, creating an app, launching a few products. So that is something that I'm looking forward to.
Well, we're very excited to hear more about the app in the second half of the year. Absolutely. And I love that you share so openly about how you do this with your husband. And my fiance and I do something similar. I call it spreadsheeting Sundays because I love to work in spreadsheets, but we sit down and we map exactly as you said, our goals, our desired feelings, what trade-offs we have to make, our budgets and everything, and work together as a force. And even with my co-founder as well, right? It doesn't have to be your life partner that you're doing this with. We also have our annual planning session that covers, of course, our business goals, but also our personal ones, because I think, as you said, you are an entrepreneur, and for everyone tuned in, we know as much as we can pick a section of our wheel, entrepreneurship is a way of life. It's not just the business section of that wheel, so it's important to look at it holistically like you do.
Of course, absolutely.
So Rolene, we're going to wrap up this session in just a minute. I just want to ask if there's anything else you'd like to leave our viewers with.
Wow. I think probably the topic of finding your soul prints and using that as the foundation. I think we live in a life where we so often base our identity on what we do, what we achieve. These things change constantly, and when we do that, we base our identity on changing things, and our identity starts changing. And it's almost like you get an identity whiplash. Now I'm an entrepreneur, now I'm a wife, now I'm a mother, who am I? But to find that soul print that underlies all of the things that you do and that supports everything you do, and then you'll end up realizing, okay, I can be me as a mom and as an entrepreneur and as a wife. So just finding that solid foundation for who you are in everything you do.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, your vulnerability as well, sharing your story, and of course, the frameworks that I know I'm also going to take away and be utilizing. So just really appreciate you coming on the Future Females show.
Thanks for having me, Lauren.
Cool. For everyone tuned in, thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Future Females show, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.